All right, we should be live. Wait till I can see it on my end. A moment. There we go. And we are live. Everybody, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you all are tuning in. We got Gary here, and we're going to be at the radio in just a few minutes. We're going to be talking about your brand new book. Gary, how you been, my friend? Glad to have you here.
Yeah, doing great. And yeah, I think you're you're actually a second interview I've done on my book.
So, I love it. What was the first one?
I was on Catholic Connection.
Cool.
And
Teresa Tomeo?
Yeah, but she was out, so I was with Vanessa Diagarmo.
Cool deal. Yeah. Great. So the second one, this is great. Now, I do have to ask you before we even go live, officially, how long has it been since your book came out?
Well, it actually technically hasn't come out yet.
Hasn't even come out. I love it. Okay. Good to know that I've got I feel like a VIP then because I got early access to it. When will it officially be out? Do you know?
Yeah, I was afraid you're going to ask that.
I'm
not sure. I think it's around Easter time.
Okay. Well, right. We're right around the corner.
Yeah, they're taking pre-orders right now on their website, Emmaus Road Press.
Awesome. You got to be excited about that, eh?
Yeah, it's another book. You know, the funny thing is, William, that, it takes so long from writing a book to actually getting it in print. Well, you know that. You've written several books.
I know that.
It's like by the time you start promoting it, you forgot most of the stuff you wrote. So
that happens. So we're going to have to pick your brain today. You definitely pick your brain. And audience, if you all have any questions about Messianic prophecies, send them in. We're going to be talking about a brand new book, and we're going to be talking about Messianic prophecies in general. So if you all have any questions, we'd love to hear them. We'd love to. And let me get it right. The title of the book, if maybe one of our incredible moderators can put it in the chat, it is Messiah, Old Testament Prophecies Fulfilled in Christ.
Yep.
I think I got it. Cool.
That is it.
I love the cover.
Yeah, they did a nice job.
It's great. Really, really good. And yeah, I wonder if it's available for pre-order on, it's already available pre-order. It's going to be available in April. Awesome. Very, very good. All right, give me 1 second. How you doing, Gary? Gary Cotreau, how you doing? James, everybody. James came by just to say hello. Okay, bye. All righty. Abel, how you doing, brother? God bless you. Good morning to Lena Molina, to everyone. If you all have questions, send them in. We're going to be live in just a moment.
Catholic commentary. Spiritual warfare. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Jesus 911.
And we are live on the air on a Wednesday morning or afternoon or evening, depending on where you all are tuning in. We're going to have a great one today. We're going to have a lot of fun. We've got the man, the myth, the legend himself with us today, Gary MICHUTA, and we're going to be talking about a brand new book right around the corner, about to come out. Indeed, you can already pre-order the book, and I've already gone through the book. What a great, great job you did putting this book together. But before we even dive into the title of the book, anything else, any other details, Gary, my friend, how have you been, brother?
Doing great. Yeah, the man, the myth, and legend, mostly myth.
Oh, man. You got a new book right around the corner, so you got to be excited, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This book has been long in the process of getting together, and it's finally ready to ship out. And we were talking before the show, there's such a long process between research and putting it all together and actually having it available for sale. So when you start doing interviews, it's like you got to reread your own book to remember all the stuff you put in it.
Yep. Yeah, I know all about that. Now, the book that we're talking about, for the audience that may be wondering, we're talking about a brand new book that Gary has put out called Messiah, Old Testament Prophecies Fulfilled in Christ. Gone through it. What a great job you do going through the book of Genesis, a lot of Old Testament books, looking at the Hebrew text, the great Septuagint, Vulgate, MECHUTA, rabbinic literature, New Testament, patristic witnesses. Just a theological feast you've got here. And I've got to ask you, what moved you, or what first moved you to want to write this book?
Well, it all started when I was with Steve Ray going through, I don't know what it was. It was something, somebody donated books and we had first picks, right? And Steve Ray had picked out this 2-volume set called Christ in Type and Prophecy by Maas, a priest, M-A-A-S.
Yep.
And he's like, hey, Gary, we were fighting over which books we wanted. But the good thing is, like, Steve's got his stuff and, with travel and Old Testament stuff. And I'm more apologetic. So it fits. And he originally picked that and he said, no, you know what? This probably be good for you. And so I went through Maas's 2-volume work, and it was so cool, how he digs into all these Old Testament prophecies. But even more than that, he goes into rabbinic literature, like that the rabbis recognize these texts as messianic, and the early church fathers too. So it was like one of the very rare books out there from a Catholic perspective that ties all this stuff together. So over the years, I've been, binge watching Messianic Jewish social media stuff. I've bought books. And like I got interested in the Trinity. So apologetics with the Trinity, which also ties into Old Testament text. And eventually Emmaus Road Press approached me and said, we're thinking of doing a book on the Messiah, because there really isn't anything out there for a Catholic, that's recent from a Catholic perspective. So I said, yeah, I'd love to, because basically I have all this material I've been collecting over the years. So as you know, William, it's like I write books in order to organize my thoughts and bring all this stuff together. So, yeah, so the rest is history.
And I like how you bring up there that Trinitarian studies and what have you, all of that really goes hand in hand here. Now, one thing that I've noted, as you've noted as well, is that there are a lot of Protestant books out there, a lot of Protestant treatments on this particular issue. Your book is definitely one filling the gap for Catholics from a Catholic perspective, which I can tell you right now is one of a kind. We don't have anything out there like it. I greatly appreciate that. And I have always emphasized, and I'll emphasize it right now as well on the air, is that there are a lot of really good Protestant books out there, a lot of really good evangelical ones, but there's blind spots there. There are areas where I feel that if you're Catholic, the book and the treatment could be so much stronger. And I find that your book does fill that particular gap. Maybe you can talk about that a little bit. How does it change your perspective on messianic prophecies in the Old Testament, New Testament, and how the early church looked at them as a Catholic?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, there's outstanding works. I mean, cutting edge apologetics that's in evangelical circles, especially Messianic Jewish evangelicals. And, I felt like Catholics need to be up to date. There's so much material out there and some really great material. Wouldn't it be great to put this all in a package for Catholics, like one-stop shopping? You get it. So So the distinctives, though, first I wanted to give an overview as much as possible of the primary text, right?
Yeah.
Which I notice with evangelicals, it's either they have a broad scope but it's very thin, or they have a narrow scope and it's very thick, but you miss a lot of stuff. So I try to get something in the middle. Another thing, too, as you know, with my fellow partner here on the Apocrypha Apocalypse channel on YouTube, Deuterocanon. There's very little to no references to the deuterocanonical books in evangelical Protestantism because they don't believe it's scripture. And so I wanted to include at least one deuterocanonical messianic prophecy, and that's Wisdom 2, right?
Yep.
Very lengthy, detailed prophecy about the opposition Jesus would encounter. Other things too, early church fathers. That's another one, for this area of apologetics, usually it all focuses on scripture and maybe rabbinic text. But I felt, it's important to also have the early church fathers so you can see a continuity, right?
Yes.
Not just looking at Old Testament in light of the New, but the Old and New in light of early Christianity as well. So as much as I could pack into the few pages for the book, I tried to load up with early church father insights as well.
Now, the one thing that I think is really important is that you do focus on deuterocanonical texts. I think that's great. And I've got to emphasize, yes, you're 1,000% right. That is an area where our evangelical friends lack big time. And as you know very well, not having those books in your Bible is a big issue. A big problem. Not having those books in your Bible means that you're going to be lacking some incredibly important insights. And one of them in particular is that Wisdom chapter 2. Wisdom chapter 2 is a very important text. I use it a lot whenever I'm debating or dialoguing with people that want to know, well, what is your favorite messianic prophecy? And that really is up there. It's one of my all-time favorites. Maybe you can talk to the audience a little bit about Wisdom 2. What does Wisdom 2 say, and why is Wisdom 2 important? Because a lot of people that may be tuning in, maybe they're hearing this, and maybe they're evangelical, they've never heard of Wisdom 2. They're like, okay, Wisdom chapter 2, what do you have there that I should look at? Or maybe you're a Catholic, maybe you're an apostolic Christian, Orthodox, and you're saying, okay, well, I've got the Book of Wisdom, but what is he talking about? So what are you talking about there?
Yeah, okay. So the Book of Wisdom is Wisdom of Solomon. It's one of 7 deuterocanonical books that are found in Catholic and Orthodox Bibles, but omitted in Protestant and Rabbinic Bibles. It is a Greek text that was written probably somewhere between 100 to 150 years before Jesus. It is an amazing book, and it's used quite a bit in the New Testament, believe it or not. And chapter 2 talks about, well, basically, it's almost a chapter-length prophecy about the opposition that the righteous one is going to encounter. And you don't find chapter-length prophecies very much in the Bible, right? It's usually a few lines or a few paragraphs, but almost the entire chapter is messianic. And it's kind of like Isaiah, right, with the suffering servant, where you have this extended prophetic explanation of what's going to happen with the suffering servant. In fact, some scholars believe that Wisdom 2 is actually a homily or some sort of exposition off Isaiah, but of course it goes even beyond Isaiah. So it really starts in verse 12 and continues on. I mean, obviously we can't read the whole section here, but it talks about how the description is uncanny when you compare it with Jesus. Like, he professes to have knowledge of God and styles himself a child of the Lord. Or in the word child is actually servant of the Lord.
Right.
And this is from the perspective of his persecutors. It says, to us, he is a censure to our thoughts. Merely to see him is a hardship for us. Because his life is not like other men's, and the different are his ways. He judges us debased and holds aloof from our paths as something impure. He calls blessed the destiny of the just and boasts of God as his father. Wow. I mean,
incredible. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I challenge anyone, especially non-Catholics, read Wisdom 2:14 till the end and tell me that doesn't sound like the Gospels, right?
It sure does. And it rightly so does, because it is directly referring to Jesus Christ, suffering servant. The New Testament knew that. The early fathers knew that. And that is a great text. And we've got a few seconds before the break. What a great way to leave us off on a little bit of a cliffhanger. We have many more texts that we're going to look at. A lot of Old Testament texts, a lot of new early church fathers. Audience, if you have any questions, send them in, and Gary and myself will dig into the mailbag the second half of the show. We want to hear from you, audience. We'll be back on the other side of the break. Man, that is fun. That was fun, Gary. Good morning to everybody tuning in. That was fun. Hope you all are enjoying it. Audience, if you all have anything on your mind, send your questions in. We're going to continue. As we always do, I want to remind the audience, after we're off the air, as I do every time, we'll continue again for another 30 minutes or maybe 40 minutes on YouTube. No, I don't think anybody's missing audio. Dominic, how you doing, my friend? I haven't seen you in a minute. God bless you, Dominic. Hope you're doing well. Albanium, Ad Gloriam, Jesus Talk Sorry. Hope all of y'all are having a wonderful morning. I got to ask, Gary, what are you enjoying right now? What are you drinking?
Oh, the usual unsweetened iced tea.
Oh, it's good stuff.
From Speedway.
Oh, it's good stuff.
Only the finest.
There you go. There you go. I like that. I'm missing my Diet Coke, but no Diet Coke during Lent. No Diet Coke.
Ooh, that is tough.
Really tough. Yeah. So I'm just having a shake in the morning right now. Just a little bit of a protein shake. Because when we're done here, then I'll head over to the gym. We still got plenty of time, audience. So if you all have any questions, and we'll have a call-in number. We'll announce the call-in number later. Hope all of y'all are enjoying your morning. Cathal Ryan, how you doing, brother? Hope everybody is having a great morning. Hope you all are enjoying the show. How long we got? Let me see.
Field and sent the hope.
Love it, love it, love it.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, if we move on, I'd like to highlight some with the Septuagint.
Definitely. In fact, I'll bring it up right away when we come back from the other side of the break. If there's anything you have on your mind that you want to talk about, we'll do that.
Okay. Yeah.
I love that.
I mean, if you want to go that way, it's
it'll go great. It'll go great.
Buying or selling your home or your business property? This is Terry Barber. Real Estate for Life underwrites the Terry and Jesse Show. And they can connect you to one of 900 pro-life real estate agents around the world. And when they receive their referral fee, they will give 80% of it to a pro-life organization. Wow, that's 80%. Realestateforlife.org, 877-LIFE-US1.
And audience, we are back, and we're talking about a brand new book about to come out called Messiah, Old Testament Prophecies Fulfilled in Christ. A phenomenal book authored by our near and dear friend, Gary MICHUTA. And indeed, audience, we got the man here himself. So if you have any questions, we're taking anything you got in your mind, send them in. We'll dig our hand into the mailbag. And if you don't want to send them in a chat, you got to call the number 1-877-526-2151. Do you have anything on your mind? We'd love to hear from you all. Now, Gary, usually, well, actually not usually, all the time, every time I've written a book, there are always particular areas where I'm just so giddy to talk about. on my Mary book and my canon book. Always really giddy. I always want to dive in and talk about particular things. Is there anything that you remember from this phenomenal book you put together that really does stick out that you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, well, when we were talking about how those blind spots with non-Catholics, one kind of a blind spot is the use of the Old Testament Greek text known as the Septuagint. And the Septuagint does some very interesting stuff with Messianic prophecy. The Hebrew text also has some great stuff, but the Septuagint is particularly interesting. Now, Septuagint, of course, is the go-to citation text for the New Testament. Most of the Old Testament quotations are from this Jewish Greek translation. It's used in the Eastern Church. And the beautiful thing, William, about the Septuagint is it's kind of like a snapshot. Whenever you have a translation, you also have a commentary, right? Because all translations, you have to do some interpretation. And the beautiful thing about ancient translations like the Septuagint is a snapshot of how a text was understood about 150 years before Jesus, right? And so many of us are familiar with Isaiah 9, right? 9:5. A child is born to us, a son is given us, upon his shoulders dominion rests. His name is Wonder Counselor, Mighty God, Father forever, Prince of Peace. And his dominion is vast and forever peaceful, right? We sing those hymns. That's part of the hymns we sing during Christmas time.
Yep.
Now, the Hebrew text alone is really cool, as you know, right? Because those names that they give, only one of the names actually can apply to humans, but the rest all apply to God in the Old Testament. Wonder Counselor, Almighty God, obviously, Father forever, or Father of eternity, right? Those words are actually used exclusively for God.
Right.
And yet it's a baby. So it's a baby who also has these divine names. Now, William, if you go to the Septuagint, you find that the Septuagint doesn't give the names.
Right.
In fact, here, I'll read this as the English translation of Septuagint. It says, "For a child is born to us, a son is given to us, whose government is upon his shoulder, and his name is called the Messenger of the Great Counsel."
Yeah.
So all those names is summed up by the Messenger of the Great Counsel. Now, William, who is the Messenger of the Great Counsel in the Old Testament?
Yep.
It's the angel of the Lord, right?
That's correct.
The messenger of the Lord.
The Angelus, the Malach Yahweh. Yep.
Yeah, and that throws us off because when we see Angelos, we think angel.
Right.
And
yes.
It can mean angel, but it really means messenger. So it can apply to other things than the angels. And if you look at the Old Testament roots of the angel Lord, what you find out is the angel Lord is Yahweh, and yet somehow distinct from Yahweh.
Yeah.
Right. He is a visible manifestation of God. When he speaks, the text says Yahweh speaks, right? And yet somehow, again, there's this distinction from Yahweh. And in later rabbinic, interpretations, that ultimately ends up to be Metatron, who is known as like the little Yahweh, the little God, even though they're monotheist. So, that's like a really good example of where the Septuagint, is by interpreting the Hebrew, actually give us a really good hint of who Jesus is. And of course, the other one is Isaiah 7:14, right? Where the Septuagint translates the Hebrew word Alma as Parthenos, as virgin. So you have in rabbinic circles, they will say, no, it's a young woman will bear a son. And the Septuagint, which is older, and again, that snapshot of how the Jews understood these words, translates young woman as virgin. And that's important proof text for a virgin birth.
I love that one. I love that you bring that one up, Isaiah 7:14, because yes, you're indeed correct. You've got in the Old Testament Hebrew, you've got the word Alma, and then you look in the Greek and you've got the Greek word Parthenos for virgin. showing you that very clearly the Jews understood that Alma, that young maiden, to be a virgin. Yeah. Clearly showing you that this is going to be a miraculous birth. Now, there are so many words that we can look at. We'd have to do multiple shows to show this is going to be a miraculous, number one, a miraculous conception, a miraculous birth, a miraculous sign. But then you see how Isaiah 7, the Greek version, is the preferred one. We see that in the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 1, verse 23, where it's directly quoted. Isn't that right, Gary?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So in the book, I look at the Hebrew words and I parse that out. And then even with Isaiah 7, I think you can make a really good case that Alma is actually a young virgin as opposed to an older virgin.
Yeah.
And that's from the cutting edge study some evangelicals did on the language. But also,
if you don't mind me interrupting briefly and asking you, do you remember off the top of your head what is that cutting edge study?
Ooh, I was afraid.
I'm just wondering if we have any overlap. The reason being, our brand new book that is coming out soon, in the Perpetual Virginity, we include a lot of that in there. I wonder if maybe we encountered the same book. I'm curious.
What book are you thinking? I would recognize it if you told me the title. It's by two authors.
It is by two authors, yeah. I think we read it in the same book. I believe one of them is a German. Man, why can't I think of it right now? But yes, it's a very good book. And I agree with you. I've done very, very deep research on Alma. And without a doubt, I believe Alma is clearly referring to a virgin, to the maiden is meant to be virgin there. So here it is. I think I found it.
Rico and Gentry.
There you go.
Yep, I found it. Yep.
There you go. That's a great book. So now there we have overlap, man. We think alike, Gary. I love that, man.
Well, I love that. When you're looking for cutting edge stuff, I mean, that's it. That's just recently come out, and they go into Isaiah 54, 4-5.
Yes.
And they make some really interesting connections there. And the walkaway is that they believe that Alma, and there's two words, Bethula and Alma, I believe it is.
Yep, you're correct.
And so Alma specifically means a virgin from youth, so someone who has not known a man, where the other term is for, say, a widow who hasn't had relations since her husband, right?
But has had relations before.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I was floored when I saw that, and I said, I got to put it in my book because, we got to get everybody up to date on this data. So that's funny.
No doubt
See,
about
great
that.
minds think alike.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. So, and what I don't want to talk about the research I did. We're talking about your book, but that was a great amount of work done there. Really, really good, and I'm glad that you have that in your book. That's awesome. Now, let me ask you this, and I got to do this because this is one of my favorite ones. And by the way, audience, we see your questions. Thank you so much for them. Send in your questions, audience. We're going to dig our hand into the mailbag in the second half. We'll tackle all of your questions. If you all don't want to call in, send them in. We'll tackle them all. Genesis 3:15, one of my favorite. You know that. You know the amount of work that I like doing in the realm of Mariology, in the realm of Christology. Genesis 3:15, I am very glad that you gave it fair treatment. Let me pick your brain. Genesis 3:15, maybe we can talk about it a little bit. What are your thoughts on Genesis 3:15, and what do you think readers often miss about the serpent, the seed, and the woman? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, boy. Yeah. In fact, it's funny. That's the first messianic prophecy in the Bible. It's called the first gospel, proto-evangelium. And in many ways, of course, with the Bible, when you have first, it's usually packed with tons of information, right? Very subtle things that really come important later on in Scripture. So I actually dedicate almost 10 pages just to Genesis 3:15. Well, I think you could point out a number of things, right? The identity of all the people there. You could use the New Testament to do that. Of course, the serpent is the devil or the dragon. Or serpent. The devil's seed is a bit problematic. The early church fathers saw a couple of possibilities. It could be demons, because they're called the offspring of the devil.
Mm-hmm.
It could be evil people who do the will of the devil, or it could be a reference to the Antichrist. And most of them kind of did all of the above, right?
Sure.
And then you have the woman's seed. And at least in the Targum, there's a Targum which specifically says that this is speaking to the future Messiah.
Yeah.
And the woman's seed is going to crush or be at enmity and crush the head of the serpent.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have the woman. And William, you and I mean, for years, we've been expounding on that. There's, who is the mother of the Messiah?
Yeah.
It can only be Mary, right?
Can only be Mary.
So in that, you have a prophecy of the Immaculate Conception.
Yep.
You have a prophecy of Jesus's total righteousness, sinlessness, and also Mary's, because that enmity is a parallel between the woman and serpent and the woman's seed and serpent's seed.
Yep.
There's so much there that, like I said, I took my time and unpacked all of that, and also some really bad arguments against the Messianic prophecy. So I take a little time to kind of refute those.
And to be very clear for the audience, there are pretty bad arguments against these Messianic prophecies. But I will say, as we got a few seconds before we go to the break, for people that try to eliminate the Mariological aspect of Genesis 3:15, I've seen very often they go down a pretty dark path where ultimately they end up denying the Messianic aspect of it as well. And really, the text is very clear. It was understood in ancient Judaism to be messianic. It was understood in this particular way in the earliest Christian centuries as well, in the New Testament, then by the early church fathers as well. From the earliest of times, we've got so much more for you, audience. And in the second half, we're going to dig our hand in the mailbag. If you all have any questions, send them in. We'll be back in just a moment. Yeah, what I liked about that study, it sent me on a rabbit trail looking for other books, Gary, and I found a really good one in German. It's very good, and I was able to translate a few passages from it. I got to send it to you in Word doc form, where this German scholar, what he does is he begins looking at early Jewish commentary, showing that the early rabbis and what have you understood Isaiah 7 in that particular way as well, to be referring to a virgin. So that's pretty incredible. For a long time, scholarship was quite sloppy, and they were trying to argue the other way around, that Betula should have been the word used if it was referring to a young maiden that was a virgin, and that Alma wasn't the word that should have been used. But it's really the other way around.
Yeah.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they nailed it. I don't know how somebody could argue against that, because there has to be some distinction if you have two different words. Yeah. And it's usually said they both mean the same thing or something similar to that. So
really good point there. Very, very good point. And it's exciting. Anything in particular you want to tackle when we come back? Or I was going to bring up Deuteronomy 18. Prophet like Moses, or was there something else you wanted to talk about?
No, we could do that. That would be
all
good.
Right. Awesome. And we'll get to a few questions as well, and we'll put the number up again. How long do we have? Let me look in the audience. Oh, Gary's not there, so let me hear. Hold on.
It's Benedict the 16th on Virgin Most Powerful Radio.
Buying or selling your home or your business property? This is Terry Barber. Real Estate for Life underwrites the Terry and Jesse Show. And they can connect you to one of 900 pro-life real estate agents around the world. And when they receive their referral fee, they will give 80% of it to a pro-life organization. Wow, that's 80%. Realestateforlife.org, 877-LIFE-US1.
And we are back on the air on a Wednesday morning or afternoon or evening, depending on where you all are tuning in. Happy Lent, everyone. And what better time to talk about the Messiah and Messianic prophecies? And right now, we're having a great time talking about them with the man, the myth, the legend, Gary MICHUTA, and his brand new book on Messianic prophecies. We've been going through a lot of incredible texts, and you may be wondering, are there more covered? A lot more. You got to put in your pre-order, and we'll talk about where you all can find those pre-orders in a moment. But you got to put your pre-order in and get your hands on that book. I want to kick it off with looking at Deuteronomy 18 and remind you, the audience, if you have any questions, send your questions in. We'll tackle them from the mailbag, and we've got a call-in number, 1-877-526-2151. Do you all have something on your mind? Or if you don't want to call in, you can send it in the mailbag and we'll tackle your questions. Deuteronomy 18 has always been one that I've loved looking at. Now, in Deuteronomy 18, Gary, why do you think, where it says a prophet like Moses, why do you think that would point beyond a mere line of prophets and to a singular figure? Is there anything that you think in the text that when we look at Deuteronomy 18, where it says a prophet like Moses, that it would point to, beyond, any kind of mere line of prophets into a singular figure? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, the key words are like me, right?
Yeah.
God will raise up a prophet like me. Now, Moses wasn't your run-of-the-mill prophet, right? He was very unique in that he has a role as a mediator and also his closeness to God. And in my book, I point out in like Numbers 12, 6-8, it actually kind of makes a distinction between Moses and the other prophets. It says, "For if there is a prophet among you, I, the Lord, make myself known to him in a vision. I speak with him in a dream. Not so with my servant Moses. He is entrusted with all my house. With him I speak mouth to mouth clearly and not in dark speech. He beholds the form of the Lord. Why then are you not afraid to speak against my servant Moses?" Right? So now think about that. For prophets, they receive visions, dreams, right? But Moses actually saw God face to face. God spoke to him like a friend.
Yeah.
And also remember, Moses was able to see the form of the Lord.
That's
at
correct.
least from his backside, right? As he passed by in his glory. No prophet ever did that. And for Moses to say, God's going to raise up another one like me, suggests that this prophet will at least be as in intimate terms as Moses was with God, most likely even more intimate terms. And of course, that goes beyond any run-of-the-mill prophet. What do you think, William?
I love it. I agree with you 1,000%. That's a great point that you bring up there. And I'm glad that you laid it out in that particular way. We do have a wonderful question from Jesus Talks Ari.
All right.
It says, Gary, thank you, Ari, for your support. And anyone else, if you have any questions, we'd love to tackle them. We'll remind you, if you want to send them in the mailbag, we'll tackle them there. Or you can call in 1-877-526-2151. What do you all have on your mind? She says, Gary, what is the best resource for someone to learn about the canon? Something maybe super basic. Love you, Gary. Also, favorite part of your new book? Ooh.
Okay.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, canon. Super basic on the canon. There really isn't any, to tell you.
That's what I told her last night. I told her that. I mean, the only one I could recommend was a really, really old one, but even that one, there's just nothing basic. The canon is complex.
Yeah, there's just nothing out there. Maybe, William, there you go. You got a niche you can fill, write a simple book on the canon. Because you already have a book on the canon, but
definitely not simple.
You go into soup and all the stuff, right? Super
and I recommended the book from Graham. It's an oldie. That one I could recommend. It's a bit outdated. There's information there that we wish could be updated. But, even there, you're never going to encounter something simple. The canon's complex. I can tell you this, that we've been studying the canon for decades and we still learn new stuff. So,
yeah.
yeah, with that, it's kind of difficult to really get something really beginner level on that. Other than the one recommendation that I gave her is to watch a couple of videos that talk about the North African code at a in a beginner level. But other than that, it's pretty complex.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that's a swing and a miss on that question.
But your favorite part of your new book?
Favorite part, new boy. It's like pick your
that's
favorite
tough.
child. You know.
Yep. Right. Yeah. That's hard.
Yeah, it's. I guess the Wisdom 2 section, just because it hasn't been done before, at least for a book on the Messiah. I don't know. There's just little bits and pieces that, it was just nice to see all this information brought together.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like part of the whole DNA of the whole book. I guess I can't really say one particular thing. I think my thing on Genesis 3:15 is good, because I go through all the possible alternative explanations.
Yeah.
Of course, the suffering servant is in Isaiah is that's really fun. I enjoyed that. But yeah, sorry, Ari. I guess I'm good. 2 swings and a miss, so I got 2 strikes against me.
It's really hard to narrow down a favorite part of a book because you pour your heart and soul into it. And there's a lot of areas that, look, I'm going to tell you from having looked at the book, having read through the book, you got to read the whole thing. You got to read it from beginning to end because it's filled, jam-packed with incredible information. Okay, well, maybe this one won't be a swing and a miss. Thank you for your support, Ari. She has another question. An audience, if you all have your questions, anything Messianic prophecy related, send them into the mailbag or call us in. We'd like to hear from you. Will your new book be in Spanish?
That one, that's all up to the publisher, honestly, because I barely speak English, so there's no way I could do this in Spanish.
Yeah.
And usually the publisher is, they look to see whether it's feasible financially to do that. I don't know if Emmaus Road Press does books in Spanish. Do you, William?
I don't think they do, but I do want to tell people one other thing. ChatGPT has gotten incredibly advanced, but I hate to break it to people because every now and then I'll run into people that'll say, well, I've translated this book from this and this language to English. I hate to break it to you, but ChatGPT is nowhere near the level. It has gotten incredibly advanced, nowhere near the level to produce a translation from a theological book from English to Spanish. I can tell you that right now because I've plugged whole chapters of stuff I've written, whole blocks of text into it, and the result is usually pretty bad because you got to know, number one, translations are never, it's never a perfect one-to-one. You got to know the nuances of the language. And for our book on Mary, which we have coming out soon as well, the English version, Spanish, it'll be coming out soon. We actually had to employ a professional translator there because it's not always a one-to-one, and there's a lot of areas where you've got to provide proper nuance there. So, yeah, it's really up to the publisher, right? Who knows? Maybe one day.
Yeah, that would be nice. I wish there was, but yeah. And it's true, especially theological writings. There's a lot of very different shades of meaning that if you just translate word for word, you totally miss it. Oh, yeah. So ChatGPT is a good, I use it all the time just to give the gist of what's being said, but never on the level of a book, though. It would
never. And I can tell you, you can run into all kinds of problems thinking that it'll always cover the bases there. Audience, if you have anything on your mind, we're taking your chat. Send them into the mailbag. We'll tackle them, or we want to hear from you all. 1-877-526-2151. We'll tackle what you have on your mind. Do you have any questions on any messianic prophecies? Let's tackle another one. Now, there's a lot of great stuff that we find in the book. I want to remind the audience, hopefully one of our incredible people can share the link to the pre-order site where they can find it. The book is called Messiah Old Testament Prophecies Fulfilled in Christ, put together by my brother, Gary MICHUTA. You can find that available for pre-order right now. Let me think of another one. Now, I'm going to put you in the spot here. I'm going to put you in the spot. Which psalm in the book, and you can say, man, there's so many of them, but which psalm in the book do you think provides the strongest direct messianic evidence? Or do you think, well, you know what, William, that's a question that I can't narrow it down to only one. There's multiple. Now, for me, that would be hard. If you put me on the spot, that I would be honest with you, Gary, that'd be tough because there's a lot that I think are really good. But for you, can you narrow it down to one or maybe even two?
I think, the first one to come to my mind is Psalm 110.
Wow.
And this is, you're familiar with it because our Lord quotes it to the Pharisees, I believe. He says, the Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand till I make your enemies under your feet. And then it also talks about being a priest forever according to Melchizedek. That is just loaded with various connotations, right? Because Messiah is prophet, priest, and king all rolled up into one. And Psalm 110 points to that. It also makes a really nice argument, like our Lord did, that how can he be David's son if David calls him Lord?
Yeah.
There's Psalm 22. That's another beautiful psalm.
We love that one.
There's so many.
There are, right? There's a lot of them. That's a tough one. And I knew that I was going to be putting you in the spot there because that really is a tough one. There's so many of them, aren't there?
Yeah, absolutely. And each one has something to contribute, right?
Yeah.
Like Psalm 45 is another one where it talks about your throne, O God, is forever and ever, speaking of Messiah. How's it God?
That's a great one. And on the other side of the break, we can talk about where that particular psalm is quoted in the New Testament. And we'll also take more of your questions, audience. We'll be back in just a moment. That's a great one. That quoted in Hebrews. That's a great one.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them, aren't there?
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
It's tough to really narrow down just one.
Yeah, and they all kind of fold into each other too. So.
Oh yeah. That's one of my favorite ones. The one,
which one?
Your throne. The Psalm, Your throne. Yeah.
Yeah. Did I get that psalm right though? I was just going off memory. Psalm 45. Yeah. 45,
it is Psalm 45, 6 to 7. Yeah. Quoted in Hebrews 1, 8 to 9. Yeah. We can kick it off talking about that. We'll kick it off. It's a pretty powerful one, definitely for the divinity of Christ, showing that he's eternal God. That's a pretty powerful one, I'd say. That's one of my top ones. There's a lot that I think are really good. Man, if you would have put me in the spot there, it'd be tough for me to narrow down just one or two or three. There's a lot of them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Psalm 22 is a cool one.
Oh yeah.
There's it's hard. It's difficult,
Oh yeah.
Like I said, it's like picking your favorite kid, right? It's you love them all for different reasons,
Oh yeah. Audience, I want to remind you, when we're off the air on the radio, we'll continue for about half an hour more on here in YouTube. And we'll put the link. We'll allow you all to come back here if you want to ask any questions, or you don't have to come back here. Send in your question, send in the chat, and we'll tackle it by the grace of the Lord, or we'll provide you the call-in number as well in a moment.
And do what Daniel's doing. Go out and spread the faith by inviting people to listen to Virgin Most Powerful. Daniel, thanks for your testimony, brother. God love you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Cathal Ryan, I just saw that. Any debates? Oh, so many that I can't even keep count of. To be debating the bodily assumption and the perpetual virginity very soon, my man.
To one of 900 pro-life real estate agents around the world. And when they receive their referral fee, they will give 80% of it to a pro-life organization. Wow, that's 80%. Realestateforlife.org, 877-LIFE-US1.
And we are back, audience. We're back on the air on a wonderful Wednesday morning, afternoon, evening during Lent. We hope all of y'all are having a wonderful, an incredible, and a blessed Lent. We're very happy to be with you. We're talking about a brand new book put out by our near and dear friend, Gary MICHUTA, on the Messiah. We've been talking about it all show long. And before we're done, we're going to let you know where you can find that great book. And you got to have it. You got to get it. You got to have it on your bookshelf. Before the break, we were talking about Psalm 45, and we're talking about some of our favorite Psalms. Psalm 45 came up as one of the clearest Old Testament texts used to point to Jesus, and it is used in the letter to the Hebrews. Psalm 45 tells you, verse 6 and 7, "Your throne, O God, is forever and ever. Therefore, God, your God has anointed you." Summarizing it. Hebrews 1:8-9 then applies that to the Son. But of the Son, he says, "Your throne, O God, is forever and ever. Therefore, God, your God, has anointed you." Well, what the text is saying very clearly, you have the Father speaking to the Son, and the words spoken are, "Your throne, O God, is forever and ever." Gary, isn't that pretty massive?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it explicitly calls the Messiah God. Yeah, and the Septuagint has ho theos for any Jehovah's Witnesses,
Yep.
So anyway, people try to wiggle out of that, and there's a couple of ways they try to do that, but quite frankly, none of them work. It's clear that the Messiah is being dressed as God, that your throne, O God, stands forever and ever. And also, then he says, "Therefore, God, your God, has anointed you." So the Messiah is God on his throne, and at the same time, he has your God, right? He's somehow under God.
Right.
And of course, in the New Testament, that sounds a lot like Jesus. Jesus is the Word is with God and is God. And yet there's times where Jesus, speaking in terms of his incarnation, right, will address the Father as, "I'm going back to my God and your God." So he's the God is the God of all flesh. So when God takes on flesh, God becomes his God. But on the other hand, he's truly divine. So it's, you have that incarnational aspect to this.
That is a great point. God is the God of all flesh. So that's exactly why and how he can say he has a God. The early church fathers knew that. The Bible lays that out in a very clear manner. Now, I love this one because Hebrews 1 it isn't just vaguely hinting at the divinity of our Lord, but rather you have a case being built up in a cumulative manner. The Son is far above the angels, and he shares in the divine identity. Now it's incredible because the Son is uniquely begotten. Angels worship him. He's called God, as you pointed out there. He has an eternal throne, and he's identified with the Lord who founded the earth. That's a pretty powerful one. That's definitely got to be one of the best ones, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I have a book where it goes through, I think, 6 New Testament texts that speak directly to Christ's divinity. And it's very critical about, whether you can nail down Christ's divinity with it. Yeah. And the book points out that the text in Hebrews 2 is among the best. There's just no way to wiggle out of it.
Yeah, there's really no way to wiggle out of it. Now, I would definitely have tomatoes thrown at my head if I went through a whole show without talking about early church fathers. So we got to ask you, do the early church fathers play a factor in this book of yours? Do you mention any of them?
Yes, I do. But, the problem is I try to cover so much in the book that I don't have enough. I mean, I wish I could have more, right? Yep. But it would double the book. Because the early church fathers have all these incredible insights into the nuances of the text.
Yeah.
And many times, some of those nuances also parallel rabbinic insights as well.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever there's something that I just can't help but put in, I put in. If not, I put it at least in the footnotes or point the readers to the fact that, the early church fathers aligned themselves, behind this particular interpretation of the text.
Yeah, they do. That's great. Now, in the book, you engage rabbinic literature, the Dead Sea Scrolls, Jewish sources. Is there anything that you can say surprised you the most in your research?
Oh boy,
That's tough, right?
surprising. Yeah. All the surprises I think were, like I said, looking at some of this cutting edge stuff that's out there.
Sure.
Lots of really cool surprises. Like, I was blown away in Psalm 22
Oh, yeah.
because, it says they pierced my hands and my feet. And there's a dispute because in Hebrew, it's like one letter difference between saying pierced and saying
Oh, yeah.
like a lion. Okay.
Yep.
And so it's, somebody could argue, well, the wording's different or something. But I ran across this work by Dr. Seth Postel, who was a Messianic Jewish author. And he points out there's chiasmus within the text. Now, what's a chiasmus? It's a kind of format of writing where something is mentioned and then mentioned later on in order.
Yep.
And he points out, and I have this in the book, he points out that if you follow the chiasmus, all the animals are named and then spoken of later. And then you get to the part where it talks about piercing the feet, but the only parallel would be his soul, right?
Wow.
So that shows that it means piercing. Like lion would
Wow.
mess up the whole chiasmus because
Sure.
lion's already mentioned and re-mentioned later, but not in this area of the text.
That is really good. That is
Yeah.
pretty phenomenal. That's powerful. Now, I'm going to ask you something that I haven't seen that question come up, but it does come up every now and then. Did the Vulgate play any role at all in looking and in doing research? Was it, and if it did, was it an important role?
Oh, it's big role, right? And
Yep.
I need to explain a little bit. The original Hebrew is a consonantal text. It doesn't
Right.
have verbs. The verbs were memorized. And if you have different verbs in a word, it'll be different words, right?
Sure.
And like I said, translations are snapshots. They're interpretive. Now, when St. Jerome was making his Vulgate, he had the consonantal Hebrew text in front of him, and he learned the text from rabbis. So when he makes his Latin translation, we know from the Latin translation how the rabbis pointed the text. So in a sense, we get a glimpse at how rabbis understood certain Old Testament text through the Latin, right?
Yep.
So just like this Greek Septuagint gives you a snapshot of Jewish interpretation before Jesus, Jerome gives you an interpretation of the consonantal Hebrew text in the 4th century. So very, very important.
Indeed it is. That is a great, great reply there. Now, I'm trying to think of something else. We have enough time to cover very briefly. Let me ask you this, and then I want to give you a chance to promote where the audience can find the book as well. After you finish the book, is there a particular, and I've asked this to you about all your books, is there a particular thing that you have in your mind that you hope the audience take from this book? Like maybe they'll look at the Old Testament and New Testament in a different way going forward. Is there something that you hope the audience take after reading and finishing this book of yours?
Yeah, I think what I'd like them to walk away is, the amazing ability of Scripture to prophesy Jesus, because sometimes it's like looking at, a television show about Jesus. These prophecies are so intricately linked to Jesus. I think the other takeaway is that I think that Messianic text has to be fulfilled in Jesus. There are some Messianic texts that are time limited, so the Messiah couldn't have come later than Jesus. There really isn't any contenders that could, be the Messiah other than Jesus. And then you have the specific prophecies, and they're very specific, like piercing your hands and feet, the sides pierced, all sorts of things that point to, it couldn't be anybody but Jesus. So hopefully that's what they walk away with, is a conviction of faith that, yes, Jesus was prophesied and fulfilled. He is the Messiah, and he's also the Son of God.
I love it. I love it. Now, I want to take a few moments before we run out of time. Where can the audience find this book right now? I know it's only available for pre-order right now. Where can they find this book to pre-order at the moment? And where can people find you and what you're working on, Gary? Put in a plug for whatever you'd like right now.
Yeah, you can get this book or get information about the book by visiting Emmaus Road's publisher's website. I believe it's stpaulcenter.com. Or you can perhaps Amazon, but you can pre-order it at Emmaus Road. And for my stuff, you could always go to handsonapologetics.com. That's my website. Or check out the stuff William and I do and David Zavaris on the Canon on YouTube with the Apocrypha Apocalypse.
Yeah, and we're always putting out new material. We got a lot of material that we're putting out for you all, videos on the Canon. And without a doubt, during the time of Lent, we cover issues like Messianic prophecies. What better time talking about them? And to keep an eye out, very soon we'll be live again. And we'll definitely be talking about Wisdom chapter 2, which is one of my personal favorite ones. In fact, whenever I talk about our Lord as suffering servant, I very often go to Wisdom 2. I supplement that with Isaiah, the book of Isaiah, chapter 49, 52, 53. All of them together are what I like to call theological dynamite. They're incredible, and they really show you the truth of Christ. Brother Gary, this has been incredible. I've had a great time dialoguing with you. I really can't wait to have you on again to talk about your book, talk about anything else you're working on. I got to say, this was tremendous. And hey, I'm excited to get the physical copy of that book as well. Have you gotten your physical copy yet?
Yeah. So for those who are watching the show,
yeah. Let's see.
This is
there. You go. I love that. I love it when people can see. So you got the physical copy. Of course, you're going to get the author copies. I know that. I know all about that. Feels wonderful when we get our author copies. I know that. So I'm excited to get a hold of that book when the physical copy gets out. I got an advanced copy. People can be jealous, yes, but I'm going to tell you all, you got to get your hands on the hard copy, the full edition. It'll be coming out very soon, and we will be back. Wonderful, man. Gary, you rocked it, man. That was phenomenal. That was great, brother. Awesome. Awesome. We're still on the air, audience. We keep our word. We're going to continue at least half an hour more. Do you all have any questions about Messianic prophecies or really anything in general? Send them in. Send your chats in or come back here and join us. We'd love to dialogue with all of you all. We'd love to talk with you all and anything you got in your mind. Messianic prophecies, even the canon. We're here for another 35 minutes to dialogue with you all. So Gary, let me pick your brain. I'll get the ball rolling before we wait for people to come back here. When is the next chill stream? Did you have one this morning?
Yeah, I had one this morning and went through Pope Leo the Great.
You did? Okay. Yeah. The Deuterocanon. Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. How many are you going to be doing in Pope St. Leo the Great?
Just one, but we covered it. It was quite lengthy, as you could imagine.
No doubt.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Oh, by the way, talking about the Vulgate question.
Yeah.
A great example, like I said, the word, it doesn't mean like a lion or doesn't mean pierced.
Right.
And in the Latin Vulgate, Jerome translates it pierced. So that shows you that the rabbis in the 4th century understood that text to mean pierced, not like a lion, like it's sometimes made out to be.
That is really good because Jerome would have been in tune with how the rabbis were interpreting that particular text. And so in his Vulgate, he provided the particular translation in that particular manner. That's pretty enormous.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned Leo the lion, right? I made that connection. So
the great Pope St. Leo the Great. Bronca says, Good morning. This is why I woke up at 3:30 a.m. I caught Gary's show last night also.
Wow.
I'm back off to bed. Good night, all you heretics. We love you, Bronco, brother. Glad you got up to tune in for a bit, my friend. How you doing, Bronco? You probably already tucked yourself in nice and cozy. Thank you for tuning in, brother. God bless you. Love your image there of the shroud. And as you can see, I've got shroud image there. I have a great devotion to the shroud as well. Bronco, awesome. Thank you for tuning in. Anyone else, do you all have any questions? Do you all want to come back here and pick our brains, pick Gary's brain, anything you all may have on your mind, or challenge us, say, hey, wait a minute, I'm Muslim, or hey, wait a minute, I don't know, Mormon, whatever, but particularly I'm a Muslim, I don't believe these messianic prophecies, you guys are completely wrong. We'd love to hear from you. Join us back here. What do you have on your mind? Or send in your questions. We're no longer on Virgin Most Powerful Radio, so I can't give you the call-in number. You're going to have to come back here to dialogue with us, or you're going to have to send a chat in. We got the brother Gary. Gary, how's it going, man? I can't give you the call-in number. You're going to have to come back here to dialogue.
It's Gary 2.0.
Gary 2.0. Gary, how's it going, man?
Good.
How you doing, brother?
Well
got
done, folks.
Delay.
You
I
did
think
a
you're
good
hearing
interview.
us on YouTube, brother. You're hearing us only on YouTube, so there's a massive delay.
Good. Well done, folks. You did a good interview. I think I'm getting a double mute here. Okay, let's try this.
Yeah, you're tuning in on YouTube.
Got to turn off one of the speakers.
Turn the YouTube off and tune into us on StreamYard, or there'll be an enormous delay.
Yeah. I guess my question is for Gary. How important was the Greek language in spreading this Messiah news?
Oh, incredibly important, right? Because Greek was the lingua franca of the Roman Empire at this point. I mean, Alexander the Great basically made it the language. It united, his kingdom, and that's why the New Testament's in Greek, because it's plugging into language that everybody could read, no matter where in your location, including Judea. A lot of people don't realize that city like Jerusalem was just as Hellenized as any other ancient city or urban center, that there was a sizable number of Greek-speaking Jews in Jerusalem. We know this through some inscriptions by the temple. And they likely when they read the Bible in the synagogue, they likely read the Septuagint. So, extremely, extremely important.
Yeah.
So, and that would apply to places like Antioch and Alexandria.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you think about it, if the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were written in Hebrew, only the Jews would know what it says, probably, because it's more of a local, regional language, where Greek is accessible to everybody.
Yeah, even in Rome. So I guess in the end, Alexander the Great did help spread the Jewish faith and the Christian faith. Yeah,
it's one of several miracles. I call it the Greek miracle that got running right before the time of Christ. It laid down the groundwork for the spread of the gospel. And remember also, if any Gentiles or any pagans, if they were at all familiar with the Old Testament, it would have been via the Greek Septuagint, right? Yep. It wouldn't be through the Hebrew text.
And I guess that worked its way down to Africa too?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And Africa seems to be the center where Latin starts being introduced. Yeah. So what you have is, even there, you have the old Latin text, which is a Latin translation of the Greek Septuagint. So even then you have carryover from Greek.
Because I do remember in the book of Acts, I think it was one of the apostles was going on the road and they met an Ethiopian. And as far as I know, that might have been how it started to spread to the African regions.
Maybe.
Plus Alexandria, some sort of there, Egypt to Africa.
Yeah, William, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, got nothing to add. Nothing to add to that.
I guess that's where the Ethiopian church got some of their translations or their books.
It's possible. Yeah, in fact, Ethiopian's Bible is dependent on the Septuagint in some areas.
Right.
Yeah. So
I was just kind of checking. Oh yeah, and they were asking about your book, Well, yeah, the Catholic Bibles are bigger. I find that's a good basic one to start with. I mean, you can only go so simple in these books.
That's true. Yeah, and even then it's a little complex, but yeah, I guess, or the case for the Deuterocanon, maybe.
Yeah,
Because that's a little bit more.
Yeah, his second one. That's the second one, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd recommend all of your books. I'd recommend all of them, but to be very clear, the canon is complex. No matter what, you can. My advice to the audience is you're not going to pick up a book in the canon and master it after one book. You're going to take you a long, long time to understand stuff. So there's just no, book to where you're going to read it and then you're going to say, okay, I got all this down. And you're going to have to continue doing research and continue reading for many years.
Yeah, there's a lot of untapped things that still have yet to be investigated.
Yeah. Your two shows this week were really good.
Thanks.
Especially on Monday. I mean, the evidence, I like the way you do it. You don't overstate it. You don't understate it. You just bury them under the facts.
That's right. Yep.
And I just love that method because, I mean, there's no use going there and screaming and waving flags and doing all kinds of stuff. You just do it systematically and
systematic, piece by piece. Take the arguments out. Yep.
Yeah, death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah. And by the way, it's too early in the morning to be waving the flag and shouting. I'm half asleep most of the time.
Too early.
Yeah, 3:30. It's kind of early.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's all I really had for today.
Hey, Gary, thank you for coming up, brother. God bless you, my friend. Great dialoguing with Gary. Always great. Gary, God bless you, brother. Thank you for coming up. And shout out to Daniel, who says, if I ever wake up at 3 a.m. to watch your stream, Gary, I'll be stuck between praying the Divine Mercy Chaplet against demons and your stream. I'm with you there, man. I'm with you there, Daniel. In fact, Daniel's also a Texas guy. It's hard. Sometimes I'm up really late and I see the alert in my phone that Gary's going to go live, but it's 3 a.m., man.
Yeah, I see you in the chat room every now and then, but I always know it's like you went to sleep as soon as you put the chat there.
I put the chat there that I crawl in, man. It's late, and usually that means I've been doing a lot of theological writing, a lot of research, and I just crawl in, I tuck in, man.
Yeah. It's a good way to go to sleep.
Oh, perfect. But not that it puts me to bed, but it's a good way to say hey and then tune it up, because if I leave the volume on, you're gonna wake me up, man. I'm gonna be too interested in, for instance, talking about the incredible Pope Saint Leo the Great. You're gonna keep me wide awake, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Let's go backstage. Audience, will remind you, we'll be here for another 20 minutes at least. Send your questions in if you have any, or if you don't, you can come back here and we'll dialogue with you. We've got the brother Gigi here. Gigi, how you doing, my friend?
I'm okay, guys. I'm okay.
Good. Awesome.
Love to you all.
Love to you as well. God bless you, brother. Good to have you back.
Like you said, it'd take a lifetime to. No one can master these topics. It takes a long time. So
a long time.
I'm only just beginning. I'd like to ask a question concerning the councils: the Council of Rome, Council of Hippo, Council of Carthage, Council of Trent, but particularly Council of Rome, Hippo, and Carthage. And the two questions. The first question is, especially Council of Rome, Council of Hippo, Council of Carthage, how significant for you as to defend the Apocrypha? How significant are those councils for you? And then I'd like us to go into the scholarship on the Council of Rome 382.
Okay. You want to answer that, William? Or
Go ahead. You can go ahead and tackle that.
How important is it? It's not very important, Council of Rome, because actually it appears that it's most likely a decree of Damasus and not the Council of Rome. So, in fact, if you get the most recent translations, I'm thinking of the Denzinger, Hunerman, edition. Yep. There's a nice little introductory paragraph where they go through that even they suggest that this came from Damasus, but not necessarily the council. And then there's also problems. I did a show on the Apocryphal Apocalypse where there's evidence within the decree of Damasus that later hands have added some things to it. So as far as evidence, it's not as important as the North African councils, Hippo Regius, and the
North
other
African
two
Code is where it's at.
I was looking at the manuscripts of the council, the decrees, like the earliest manuscript. We have it's called the Ryledale MS 985 700 CE. The Rogyan Drus Codex, 8th century or 750 CE. So I've looked at all the manuscripts. There's about 5 or 6 key of those manuscripts, and they're like 100, 150 years after that council. And then I looked at all the scholars, and a lot of scholars saying that it was retro edited.
Yeah.
So you've got these two issues. You've got the issue of the list of the canon, and then you've got other issues within the decrees of things like various books that you should, various writers that you should look into, like Jerome and things like that. He's saying, and so scholars are saying that maybe those later parts were edited. The bits about, for example, it gives a list of key writers that you can read, things like that.
But that's why we go to the North African Code, Gigi.
Yeah,
people, to be very clear, if you hear us, in fact, I just put out a show just yesterday. The North African Code is what we go to all the time. That's not disputed. There's no dispute there.
Yeah, but then you're picking and mixing, aren't you? You're picking the bits that you like and the bits that you don't want. We're not
picking the bits that we want from the North African Code. We're picking the canon. There's no dispute over the North African Code of the canon, Gigi. You're wrong.
You've got Council of Rome 382. How many?
So Gigi, so yet again, Gigi, I don't think you're paying attention to anything. Maybe, and I know it's already evening for you, so you're not half asleep the way that I was in the morning when I came on here. Gary said it immediately from the get-go. We deal with a North African Code. There's no dispute there. Yet for some reason, I have no idea why you want to focus on Rome when we said there's no dispute over the North African Code. You asked Gary how important is it. Gary said it wasn't. But for some reason, you heard the opposite. You heard Gary say it was important. So now you're focusing on that. I don't know what you want me to say, Gigi.
But because
I don't know what you want me to say.
First of all, there's a list of the canon within that council. You would agree.
I don't think you heard anything you said, Gary.
Gigi,
we didn't say that, Gigi. He said the complete opposite. Now, I understand what you did, Gigi. No offense to you, but you wrote out a script, prepared to come here and to challenge us on this. Gary diffused you in 5 seconds, so you have no idea where to go now. But I'm telling you, pay attention to what Gary said. You got diffused in 5 seconds, so now you don't know where to go.
So there's no continuity there. Where's the continuity?
393, 397. What do you mean there's no continuity?
But
it's right there in the 4th century.
The Council of Rome in 382. Why, for example, here's a question. Why is it that in that 382 council where it gives a list of the canon?
Oh my goodness, Gigi, are you paying attention?
No, just
Gary,
listen.
No, but you're arguing against a straw man, Gigi.
No,
you're not arguing our position. That's a straw man.
I just want to bring a point in. No, I'm just asking questions.
But they're not valid ones. Go ahead, Gigi. They're not valid ones. Silly, Gigi.
Why Jerome? Why is it Jerome disagreed with that statement of that canon list?
Oh my, Gigi, I don't know what to tell you, my friend. Did you hear anything Gary said? I love you, brother, but you ignored everything. Now, no offense to you. You came here and you should have known better, but you came here with an argument. Gary answered you in 5 seconds, and now you're trying to argue the opposite of what we believe. Did you hear anything of what Gary said, Gigi? I'm asking you as a friend.
I understand what you're saying.
What did Gary say then? What did Gary say?
You're saying that the Council of Rome 382 is not that important. That's what you're saying.
My goodness, you heard nothing of what Gary said. Gary, go ahead again. I don't know what to tell you, Gary. Go ahead, Gary.
Okay, so it's believed that it didn't come from the council. It came from Damasus, so it's a decree of Damasus. And it's also been altered by later hands. So in terms of how solid it is, it's not really important. So what is important is Hippo Carthage, Carthage 3, Carthage 16, Innocent the First, 405. Those are the most important ones. The stuff with Damasus really isn't important. I know a lot of older books like emphasized it, but quite frankly, looking at in detail, it doesn't.
So what I get from that then is that you've got this Council of Rome, and then later people try to manipulate it, and because it doesn't now equate to what you kind of want in your polemic, now you throw it under the bus.
No,
that's
not
what
at
I
all.
get. That's what I get.
When it comes to attributing writings in the ancient world, sometimes you will have writings that are falsely attributed to people. So you have this decree of Damasus that also got mixed in with the council that Damasus was over. And then later, if you look at the text, there's evidence that, no, this couldn't have been written by Damasus during the Council of Rome, because some of the stuff in it comes from an obvious later date. In fact, it uses, I think, Augustine in some parts.
Yep.
And then even the canon list, it refers to Lamentations just like Jerome does, but Jerome didn't make that. That's from his preface, which takes place, I think, after Damasus dies, if I remember correctly. So as far as evidence, it's not, you can't really hang anything on it.
But is the list in the Council of Rome, is it exactly perfectly the same as the Trent list?
Because it's not important, I haven't looked at it. I'm pretty sure it is identical, but there may be some variation. I have no idea. William, do you know? I would say it's probably identical.
Gary,
as far as contents.
I mean, you just said right now, you just nuanced that really the North African Code is what we know, the origins of the early canon, and that very clearly is something that we avoid, but he doesn't get it. He just doesn't understand it.
I understand that. I understand.
I don't think you do get it, because the continuity, you don't get it. The continuity is
this. You guys are scholars in the area.
The continuity is
this. An exact list.
The continuity is this. No, we just said that it is a Damascene list, but whether or not it came from 382 Rome, you still don't get it. You've asked this question 30 times. We've told you over and over that is doubtful. That what we hold to is a North African code where there is continuity, because it's not just 393, 397, it's also 419, and then it's also multiple ecumenical councils. You don't get it, though. You simply just don't get it. There is no importance. There is no importance to that so-called 382 list. The importance is given to the North African code. I don't know how many more times to say it. Maybe in Spanish I can say it.
Can I ask you this, though? Can you categorically say over 90%, 95% probability that the code in the Council of 382, whether it was done then or whether
still
it was
doesn't
edited,
get it. We just said it was edited.
No, whether edited, right? Is it exactly the same?
Who cares?
The same.
It's not the North African code. Who cares? It's not the North African code.
But can you say it's exactly the same?
Let's give you an education lesson right now. This is where we're going to educate you, Gigi. You're in school right now, and right now you've got an F, and you're on the verge of being expelled, and I'm going to lock you in that room, and you're never going to get out of there.
You keep saying that. You
just don't get it. You just don't get it. Yes, Chalcedon. No, I wasn't wrong about Chalcedon. You did miserably in Chalcedon. Really? I was wrong? Okay, we're going to go to Chalcedon now. We're going to go to Chalcedon. So we're going to go to Chalcedon. I'm going to embarrass you in Chalcedon. I'm going to embarrass you. Does Chalcedon say that Mary is a perpetual virgin? Does Chalcedon say that Mary is a perpetual virgin?
William, it was
Gigi, you're not going to escape here, Gigi. No, I'm going to tell you what a disgrace is, Gigi. I'm going to tell you what a disgrace is.
I read the two.
I'll tell you what a disgrace is. Since you don't stop talking, I'll tell you what a disgrace is. Let me unmute you. I'm going to tell you what a disgrace is for you, Gigi. Let me tell you what it is. A disgrace is thinking that you can go to newadvent.org and that everything there in newadvent.org, that's all you need. A disgrace is going to google.com and saying, look, this is everything from Chalcedon. That's what a disgrace is. Not realizing that what councils discuss are also there in the Acta. Not realizing that the beating heart of Chalcedon is the tome of Leo. That is a disgrace that you didn't even know that you don't know the difference between Diophysite Christology from Leo and Miaphysite from Cyril. You don't have a clue. You don't know a thing about them. That's what a disgrace is. And then you arguing against Mariology when Chalcedon teaches the perpetual virginity of Mary. You argue that, well, you can hold the Chalcedon. No, you can't. You can't hold a Chalcedon. You can pretend to hold a Chalcedon, but no, you can't. Now, I'm going to educate you in the canon because you don't want to go back to Chalcedon. I'll tell you that right now. You don't want to go back to Chalcedon, Gigi. You don't want to go back to Chalcedon. So let me educate you because you made a statement on Rome 382. No, and you're not. I'm going to educate you in Rome 382, and then I'll let you talk. Then I'll let you talk. Yeah, well, you can download 5,000. Doesn't mean you know how to read. Because of your arguments right here, very clearly, no, I'm not. I'm not incorrect. And we'll go into the Acts of Chalcedon if you want. If you want, we can have a whole show on Chalcedon and how it's against Protestantism. We can do that. We can have a whole show on that if you want. But here's your issue. We said from the get-go that Rome doesn't matter like the North African Code. Rome to us, you can pretty much put it on par with Laodicea. We don't care because we rely on the North African Code. We said that over and over, didn't we, Gary? Yep. We said it over and over, and he tried to erect a straw man, and he tried to debate against the straw man. That doesn't work here, Gigi. It doesn't work, okay, my friend? It doesn't work. So be honest at least. Be honest, Gigi. You don't need to get animated. Be honest. Calm down. Take a deep breath. Here's the one thing that just doesn't work, Gigi. A council where papal supremacy is taught, there's not a living scholar that would go against it. And you think you can hold to Chalcedon? That's an embarrassment, Gigi. Come on, man. Pope St. Leo viewed himself as the one that has the keys. Did you read them all? Did you read them all?
I'm up to 200 pages in there.
You've read 200 of 1,000. Okay.
You were not correcting what you were saying in some of the things that you were saying.
So you've read the Tome of Leo.
What? I've read the Tome.
You've read the Tome of Leo? Does Leo call Mary perpetual virgin?
And in his letters, listen, in his letters as well.
Does Leo call Mary ever virgin?
Listen, can I finish my point?
Does Leo call Mary ever virgin? Yes or no?
Yes, but let me finish my point.
You don't hold to that. So don't say you hold to Chalcedon. Go ahead.
You're not listening to me. I made the point that Cyril was behind Chalcedon, and you said no.
I didn't.
Read the letters,
no, I didn't. I didn't say that.
Listen,
I didn't say that. Don't lie about me. No, Gigi, I'm not going to allow you to lie about me. You're not going to lie about me, Gigi. You're not going to lie about me.
Of Leo,
no, Gigi.
He is constantly referring to Cyril all the time.
Gigi,
when you read
here's the one issue. You think that I am. Here's the issue, Gigi. You think that I'm being mean by interrupting you. You're lying. Just like you showed up here. Yes, you are. Just like you showed up here. Okay, you don't stop talking, so I'm going to have to mute you. Just like you showed up here, and you tried to argue against Gary for 20 minutes, erecting a straw man. Gary corrected you within 30 seconds, and you had no idea what Gary said, so you began trying to debate something we don't even hold to. Your issue was with comprehension, Gigi. You don't comprehend the simplest things. I tell you with all due respect, you don't comprehend baby-level stuff. How can I say that Chalcedon wasn't based on Cyril? It's a different heresy being dealt with, but Cyril is mentioned over and over. I mentioned to you that the Miaphysite Christology of Cyril and the Diophysite Christology go hand in hand. You don't even understand that. You would have no clue to that, Gigi. You'd have no idea. But my point on Chalcedon that you still don't get is that the beating heart of Chalcedon is the tome of Pope St. Leo, and you cannot hold to that tome. As a Protestant, there's not a living Protestant that can hold to that tome. You can pick and choose what you want, but you can't hold to it. So don't call yourself Chalcedonian. You're not.
That tomb of Leo is primarily about the Christology. And that's why.
And part of the Christology is Mariology. They go hand in hand.
Let me finish. And why I was saying that on that day when I was talking to you, which you didn't understand.
No, I understood perfectly well. I understood perfectly well. I understood perfectly well.
To this day, you don't understand. What you didn't understand.
Gigi, I'm not going to allow you to disrespect me. I'm sorry. No, you're not going to finish when you try and disrespect me. I'm sorry. Gigi, I can put you in the spot right now and ask you to give me a quote of Diophysite Christology of Cyril, which I'm going to ask you to do right now. Give me a quote from St. Cyril that is Diophysite. I want you to give me a quote right now from St. Cyril that is Diophysite. You think that I don't know. I don't know if you realize, but this whole audience we have here, they're part of my Patreon courses where I teach with Father Kappas. We teach Christology. So I want a quote from Cyril right now that teaches Diophysite Christology. I want to see if you actually have one. Give me a quote showing where Ephesus and Chalcedon, where they complement one another. Give me a quote from Cyril.
Stop running. Let me finish.
Give me a quote from Cyril.
Let me finish.
Give me a quote from Cyril. No, Gigi, give me a quote.
Let me finish.
Give me a quote from Cyril. No, I'm not going to. Are you ready to give me a quote from Cyril? Yes or no?
I don't even know what I'm arguing.
Are you ready? No, I do know what you're arguing. You said that I don't understand Cyril. Do you have a quote from Cyril that shows his Diophysite Christology? Yes or no?
You don't understand. Let me finish.
Oh, I understand very clearly. I can tell you the Miaphysite. I can tell you the Miaphysite Christology of Cyril and how it lines up perfectly with the Diophysite Christology of Leo. He left. Now, here's what happens. Lino Molina, you're right. Without lies, Protestantism dies. 100%. Now, I'm going to tell you what he did, audience. He showed up, tried to go at us right away. Gary corrected him in 10 seconds. And he tried to debate Gary for about 20 minutes on something we don't even hold to. I've never seen something like that before. Have you, Gary?
Nope. No. I wish I could say he's the only one. I have seen stuff like that before, but unfortunately, yeah, I didn't get it. And we did a video on it. We've been there, done that, got the T-shirt. We know about the Council of Rome. It's not
over and over and over. Yeah. That's why we said, let's go to the North African Code, because we could make an argument for Rome 382, but we don't need to. We don't need to. And it takes too much time. We go with the North African Code, which, by the way, very soon, people over there on Apocryphal Apocalypse, we have a video that'll be debuting by the grace of the Lord next week. Just filmed it, 2-parter, and you'll hear that I deal with the North African Code there, where we deal with the mutilated canon of Marcion. I deal with the North African Code, which is what we were hoping to have a serious dialogue with Gigi, but I don't think he wanted to have a serious dialogue, sadly.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Any final thoughts, Gary?
No, I unfortunately I didn't follow his logic at all. At first I thought maybe he was saying that the North African Code was dependent on the so-called Council of Rome, or
no, he just wanted to depend. He just wanted to argue the Council of Rome. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
I don't know what more you can say. And if only relying on the most solid evidence is some sort of ad hoc move, then I guess we do ad hoc moves then, right? Because we want to rely on the best evidence. We're not relying on something that we can't identify the provenance and things like that. So
we've been very, very clear about it. That is why we lay forth the North African Code over and over. He didn't want to deal with it, wanted to ignore it. Gary corrected him immediately, and his only position was to argue over and over for the Council of Rome. I don't get it. Yeah, I don't get it. And my point. Go ahead, Gary. Go for it.
It's tough when the facts destroy a good argument. That's.
I think he came here prepared to argue that, and when you immediately diffused it, he didn't know where to go.
Yeah.
He had no clue. Then he tried to hop onto Chalcedon. Look, as a Protestant, you don't want to go to Chalcedon, one of the most pro-papal supremacy councils ever. How can you even try to pretend you're Chalcedonian? I hate to break it to you, Protestants. There's not a living one of you all that are Chalcedonian. You may adopt our Christology from there, all the while picking and choosing and rejecting everything else. You can do that. You can freely do that. But that does look a little bit ridiculous, I just got to say. Doesn't look good at all.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. Well, William, I'm going to have to bug out in a few.
Same here. Gary, put in any plug you want to plug in. Put any plug you want to put in. I got to go as well. It is a 12:30 mark here. In fact, I'm putting my shoes on. I'm heading over to the gym right now, man. I got to get a workout in. I got my shake in. Gary, any plug you want to put in? You doing a chill stream tomorrow? What do you got coming up?
No, next chill stream is Friday. And what I'd like to do is have another team stream.
Got to do it.
We did a cool breakdown on John Meade's presentation on the canon with the team, and I'd like to keep the ball rolling. And
let's do it. What day were you looking forward to?
Well, I don't know. I'll send out a field to you and David C. maybe tomorrow. I don't know how tomorrow looks.
Tomorrow would be good. We do it.
Right.
Audience, you all want that audience? Let us know, and we'll be back again. We'll do a team show together tomorrow. If you all, the audience, want that, let us know. Gary, great time being with you, brother. We'll wrap it up there, my friend, and I'll be talking to you soon. We'll be in touch.
All right. Sounds good.
Audience, you guys are great, phenomenal. We're going to put the outro. If you want to see us tomorrow, let us know. And we'll be back tomorrow. Everybody, God bless you. We hope you enjoyed that show. And a little bit of action you got as well when we opened up the stream.